Here's this. There.
So I think it's a good idea to have a little historian here.
It's an excellent
So that
idea.
you can start recording some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we should have done originally.
Right. With everybody, all the members.
Because, well, there were no members. Remember,
No, originally, no, there were no members.
the only one that was here was me, and the family. And what we had is what happened is that I was brought into this by Tránsito.
Mhm.
Tránsito Macías was my wife's aunt. My wife's cousin.
Cousin, she was a sister to her mother. So that's her tia, no? Tia. Wasn't her tia?
No,
Because
Tránsito, I mean,
Tránsito was
Eva.
Maria's sister.
no,
No?
no.
Oh, no.
Her mother, Isabel,
Oh.
is
Oh, they
Maria's
were
sister.
cousins.
They were cousins. And as Tránsito is the mother that
Patsy.
the Patsy. The family started here. Her family was one of the pioneers from San Antonio.
Okay.
They moved to this area,
Mhm.
and they moved and they settled here, farming, doing whatever.
Which family?
The Perez family,
That is.
and in so doing, he met Maria. Maria is his wife,
Yes.
and they married, and both his father and his wife's father were the natives of this area.
Mhm.
One was the Perez family, and the other one was the Loya family.
What was that?
Loya
Lloyd.
family. And so that's where I came into the picture. Married into the Loya family, or the Perez family,
Enrique Perez.
to Enrique Perez's daughter, who happens to have been cousin to Tránsito Macías, who was part of the Alarcón family.
Okay.
She was born to Tránsito was her cousin, so they're both from the same family tree. To make the long story short, it was a kind of the evolution of how this community came to be. Newcomers coming from Chihuahua, newcomers from the east, the part of the United States. They settled here. Some came from San Antonio, some came from Santa Fe, they settled here. And so all these families came from all different places, Chihuahua, and from different parts. So the roots are in Mexico,
Mhm.
but the roots started in Mexico a long, long time. They had gone to Missouri and other parts of the states, and ultimately moved over here. So as a result, you got people whose roots go back everywhere in the United States, because this whole community was settled by the Mexican families, that is Spanish families, that started coming into the country.
Yeah.
I said we go through a lot of years before they start identifying themselves as Mexican or as Tejanos. Because all of that involves different. And but they grew up here. Originally from San Antonio, the other one from New Mexico. So you got all these people here. And so I came to Isleta for the Tiwa Indians. That's where I was raised.
In Islet.
So I came to and our travels to the valley was, just young kids looking for girlfriends. That's it in a nutshell. So we would come to these little towns and sort the merchandise and see what kind of girls were around, and they evaluated, and the local boys would give us hell, try to run us out of town, and that's in a nutshell the story.
Yeah.
So what was it? The 50s?
It's the 50s, yeah. In fact, my peers in school, just, our neighbor here,
Over here?
de aquí de Marta Alarcón.
Oh,
Those are the first people that I met when I was in Isleta High School.
Okay.
Marta Alarcón. And she was in my class, and when she came to Isleta High School, that's when we met. And that's when I met my wife, and that's when we were all students in Isleta High School. But we all came from different sources, except that the Alarcón family, Marta is part of the Alarcón family. My wife's mother was part from the Alarcón family. Tránsito was Alarcón family. So they were the Loya family, the Perez family, the Alarcón family. Those are the original root families in the area. And all the rest of them are somehow related to them. Everybody related here. If you trace everybody's genealogy, everybody's got the same roots.
or their family trees, the branches touch.
They touch each other.
Intertwine for marriage and by knowing each other.
Because it's just the nature of the thing. The people that grew here are the same people that moved to Isleta and moved to Socorro. And, so the whole family is kind of related. And if you trace a lot of people's roots, the Villalobos family, for example, that used to own the bus company, dated my mother-in-law when they were kids. And, he lives here, he lives in Clint. My mother-in-law lives here. Frank Candelaria was related to my mother-in-law.
Oh, really?
So all of those people in Isleta were related. So the lineage is pretty much, it's a blend.
You said you had met the Loya family before you even met my mom.
Well, basically what happened is that I met one of the Loya sisters, which is my mother-in-law was a Loya, owned a motel at the 9 Mile Inn, 9 miles from El Paso. Used to be a bar there called the 9 Mile Inn. And it used to be a bar, and there used to be the King's Motel there, and and she used to own that motel. Her husband and her built that motel, and my father used to do construction work, and they needed the hotel rebuilt. So guess what? They hired him to rebuild the hotel. And I was a kid at the time. Had to help my father plaster the walls and do whatever. In so doing, I met the family that owned the motel. Turns out that they were related.
Future mother-in-law.
And my mother-in-law when future mother-in-law used to come to the motel to help her sister maintain the hotel because they had guests and they had to fix the beds and whatever. And she'd pay her to come and help her clean the place, I guess. And so just the nature of jobs.
Mhm.
Well, naturally, that's how they met. The owner of the motel and my dad. And then in so doing, I started seeing this lady that came to clean the motel, and she had a daughter. That's how I met her. That's how I met her.
Yeah.
And so that's
Teresa Perez.
which is there were Perez Loya.
Okay.
In other words, he was Perez, her dad was Perez, her mother was Loya. So the way that the roots start matching together, it's
Yeah.
happened. So I don't know what it is you want to know, but from the lineage standpoint, I'm just telling you more or less how the roots came together in Isleta. A lot of people from Isleta have roots here.
Yeah.
The tribe people that live in the Indian town over there, and they have roots here. People here have roots there. So this whole area is interrelated.
Yeah.
So naturally, when I started looking into, there was a family reunion here. My mother-in-law's family decided that they were going to be able to have a family reunion. So she started telling me about her lineage. And I used to draw houses. I used to
Adjustment at Fort Bliss.
those you draw floor plans
Yeah.
for houses. And she started telling me about her lineage and all that. So I started sketching the lines, the flow of the families. She said, well, they were going to do a family reunion. So I said, let me draw a plan for the lineage of the people that are coming to this reunion.
The family tree.
A family tree so that they'll all know how they got here.
But it was not your mother-in-law, it was Transito.
No, it wasn't my mother-in-law.
Your mother-in-law way back then?
Well, no, Transito didn't exist either.
But you did the family tree way back then?
No, but that's when I met Transito, because
Right.
when they were having a family reunion, they
Right.
started talking about it. They started talking about how the families link together and stuff like that. And I said, well, you need to put a plan that show how this lineage works.
When was
This is
the reunion? Do you remember?
It was, I got the year, but
I think it was like early 90, 88 or something like that, wasn't it? 89 or something. Or maybe even 86, because it was before 1990, because genealogy started in 1991.
Mhm.
It became chartered in 91, I think.
Well, I was in the.
So
I
they
was
were
in-
already.
I first started
already
coming here in
formed.
1958.
Okay.
Okay, and that's when I started.
To check out the girls?
Hmm?
You first started coming in 1958.
Yeah.
By then did you already know the Loya family?
No,
You hadn't gone to school yet,
That's where I met
later on.
different people.
Huh.
I started looking at different girls here. That's all. So, but when I started looking interest in the family and San Elizario as a whole, was when I started focusing on my wife, who was a girl here growing up.
Mhm.
And since I had married into the family, and they came to my wedding, so I met all these people. So
My mom's family tree is here somewhere.
So when she was trying to organize this family reunion, I started drawing the family tree, see how everybody was related. And I think that, I don't know.
Yeah,
the fam-
Transitos has got to be here.
the family trees should be right here. I think I drew it
Yeah, it should be around here
at
somewhere.
one time, and that's how the whole idea of this museum started.
Yeah.
Because this place was kind of abandoned
This building.
building that had been acquired by the county for some reason, and they had it rented, and the rental lady used to live here, and they parked the cars here, so they were parking their cars, and it's kind of full of oil and stuff like that. So it's
So the origin of the Portales started as a house that was being rented
Yeah.
by a family,
So then
and then it was
I
acquired
was
by the
observing
county.
all of this stuff, and then the family reunion took place. So I got to meet a lot more people, a lot more families here. And that's how I took an interest in this families, in this bunch of families.
Mhm.
So I started when I did my family tree. I noticed that everybody was somehow related to each other.
So you were already married to my mom.
No, that's when I started. When I got married to her, that's when I realized.
Yeah, that's when you met
When I
Francis.
started helping with the family tree, I had already married
Right.
to Teresa family.
He married in 1960.
So that's how. But I took an interest.
What year did you get married?
1950,
1960.
63.
63.
63.
Okay.
They got married in the church here.
Yeah.
Could you tell me about your wedding? How was it? Could you tell me about your wedding?
Yeah, just typical wedding. Nothing fancy about it.
Mhm.
We had the mass here. We had a reception at my parents-in-law's house, just on the street here, behind the street,
Okay.
right there by the canal.
Tell about the cake.
That's where the farm is, where they used to live. And and then the Alarcon family, the superintendent of the schools here was named Alarcon, and and they were related to all these people. And I had started meeting these people because of my association with my families in the area, the construction, and I used to meet people and started meeting farmers with different names. And it's kind of intrigued my interest in these things.
Mhm.
We organized this family reunion, so that became a focal point. Because then my mother-in-law asked me to draw the family tree.
Were you already getting together with Lamo, Bayan, and all those people?
No.
You hadn't been getting together with them yet.
Oh, Lamo used to work for me when I was director of Project Bravo.
Ah, okay.
Before, I was the Project Bravo director. It's a War Poverty program.
Okay.
Project Bravo was organized under the back in the War on Poverty days, it was the Johnson years, and all this, and I took a job with Project Bravo, and I was the director of Project Bravo. So my employees were people that lived here, Favens, throughout the valley, and Isleta, downtown, the whole county, and then the director of operations used to live here also. And Manuel Nakashima from Isleta used to be in the board of directors, and I was started out with the board of directors of Project Bravo.
Mhm.
And
What was the project about? What did you do?
the War on Poverty is just a program to
Community development.
community development
Okay.
program, because
Can you fix the camera? It cuts them off at the neck.
Yeah, that's like as high as I can get it to go.
Tip it over.
so basically that's
No, well, it would just fall.
Oh,
over.
just follow.
Yeah.
that's how the connections start taking place. So people that worked for Project Bravo, Lamo Payan, I hired him. One of the Alarcons that are working Project Bravo. The different people that live here. Eva Diaro was in my board of directors. Project Bravo. So they were all. Someone I met them because in different roles, they were in my board of directors,
Mhm.
and I was director. And I hired Lamos and the community developer and
Lama Payan is one of the early genealogy members.
genealogy members, and
We need to bring that camera down.
met
Put this thing underneath and then put this water like right there to kind of hold it so it doesn't fall over. Then lift it up. Lift that up. Get back to this.
Well, it's just
Or if you want.
like it'll just fall over.
No,
if
that's what I'm saying. Put this over. Lift this part.
oh, this.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Just enough. Oops. Just enough so that it. Oh, that's good.
what are you doing?
Trying to get your picture in there so that you're not falling.
Huh?
You're not cut off from the. Okay. Then scoot up, Dad. Maybe that'll be better.
Oh, you want me to sit up?
Yeah. That's,
Oh, okay.
Okay. There you go. Sorry.
Okay, that's better.
Okay,
So I'm just trying to tell you how the connections start taking place.
Mhm.
So I went to the service, came back. They're still here.
when did you do your service?
Huh?
When did you do your service?
58,
58.
and
you were
that's about
stationed in what part? Germany?
Germany.
You remember where?
I was in Frankfurt, Mannheim, Germany.
How was your time there? How was your time there?
Heidelberg.
No. How was your
How
time
was
there?
it? What did you do?
Oh, I used to work as a mechanic.
And the driver, you were moving trucks.
Well,
Heavy
I was
equipment.
going to consider a recovery specialist. My job was to drive a 30-ton tank transporter. I used to carry tanks around and move trucks, truck parts. Ordnance is the arm of the army that rebuilds and maintains the vehicles. So in the army, basically, that's what I did. And that was about when the Berlin crisis started hitting and all this stuff. So there was a big demand to mobilize the tanks and modify the tanks because anticipating a possible war, one of the drawbacks of the tanks would get stuck with, the war. They couldn't keep traction, so that
In the mud or what?
no, in the
Snow?
the Germans would build spikes,
Oh.
concrete spikes, and the
To stop
tanks
the
would
vehicles.
hang themselves on the
Oh.
thing, and the thing would be rolling.
Disable it. Okay.
Disable the thing, they couldn't move.
Okay.
So what happened? They started modifying the tanks, put a spade in the front of them, so that the tank would go and lift those spikes,
Lift the spikes instead of going over them.
the concrete spikes, and knocking them off, so that they wouldn't hang on them.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's in preparation for possible war. That's what I used to do.
So the war hadn't started yet. Vietnam hadn't started yet.
Well,
The Korean War had already ended, right?
The Korean War had already ended. Vietnam was warming up, and basically it was just peacetime. But in over there in the east, things were getting hot, and the Germans were getting hot. All that. So in a way, it's kind of a way that how wars are started, I guess. But that's how I got into this business, being a soldier over there, stationed.
How long were you there?
I was there 3 years.
3 years.
So basically, that's how that happened, and I got that's when during the Berlin crisis, you know, the stuff with Berlin. They sent us from Germany to Berlin.
Mm.
Supposedly, we were confronting the Russians or whatever it was, the East Germans.
How was Berlin?
Hmm?
How was Berlin? Did you see
Well,
the
basically,
wall, the
just
divide?
there were no walls at that time.
Yeah.
That's when they blew the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's when they built the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Uh,
What happened is that the East Germans started to get out of Berlin. They started to run away from the East German government, right? So Germans would desert the area, the east part of Germany, move to the west.
the water there.
So I ended up give me some water.
No, this one's mine. The one that fell was his.
There was no. I gave you that one.
Oh, this one? Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I think that was.
oh, this was. Oh, sorry, Dad.
So but that's how evolution, the evolution of wars, I guess. So that's where I was in preparation for that.
Okay.
But then I got discharged, and so much for the end of the war. So then I came back.
It's considered the part of the Vietnam era.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of Vietnam era, the beginning of the Vietnam era,
Okay.
and that's about it. And then I ended up coming back out of the service and settling here again. And that's when I got involved with the war on poverty and community developer with Project Bravo and stuff like that.
How did you meet my mom here?
Well, I had already met her, but
Oh,
but I was just dating her at the time.
and then you went to the service.
Yeah.
And you came back and you said, here I am.
Well, actually, we kind of corresponded and all that stuff at the time. Put my 3 years in and got out. But I guess it relates to this place here. The fact that we got married here brought me to focus on this area. Notice the tranquility of the place, the church, and the placita. The placita was about a couple of feet deeper than it is now.
Mhm.
So instead of the water, it would soak this place. This place was drowned underwater for the longest time. But anyway, so, and my wife's grandfather used to be the county commissioner in 1906 for the county of El Paso,
Jose,
Jose Perez. And
Jose what Perez? JJ Perez? His name is JJ?
Jose Jorge Perez.
Jose Jorge, that's why.
Jose Jorge Perez used to be the county commissioner. And so my wife used to tell me about it, how she used to take the train. They used to go to Clint, get the train, to go to the meetings in El Paso.
Oh, the meetings were held in El Paso.
Huh?
The commissioner meetings were held in El Paso.
So that he had to travel from here to El Paso by train.
Mhm.
So that's how.
Was he a teacher first, or was he a commissioner first?
No, that was after. He was a teacher first.
He was one of the first earliest teachers
He
here.
was a teacher here.
This was a schoolhouse?
This is a schoolhouse.
This Garcia house was a
The
schoolhouse.
Garcia house was a schoolhouse at that time.
Yeah.
And that's he was a teacher here along with what's his name? The formal teacher.
Something Garcia, Nagacio, Nacho, no,
No,
no?
No, el que está ahí retratado, the, the, the teacher, the principal, I guess. But that's how all this.
But originally, it was not just a school church. I mean, a school.
It was just a house.
It was a school for boys, because the class that Jose Perez is pictured with,
Yeah, it was.
they're all boys.
Yeah, well, what happened?
That was before the girls' school came. The Loreto Academy.
What happened is that back in those years, they used to segregate the kids. The boys would be in this area, and the girls would be in the other end of the school.
Oh, so they were part of one school.
Part of the same school.
Okay. So by then the Loreto school was not there anymore.
Well, the Loreto sisters were stationed here somehow.
Nearby.
Nearby or something.
But it wasn't related to this school at all.
No.
Oh, okay.
They were part of the church.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
They were the church and the school and all that kind of intermingled,
but they weren't the same.
But the same people were.
Well, there weren't a lot of people, so they were all doing part of.
But everybody was related, and everybody was involved in everything.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, some were farmers, some were grocers, some were butchers, some were, they all lived together here. That's how life was.
So Jose Perez, he was a school teacher, and then he became the commissioner.
No, he was a school teacher.
Yeah, he looks young in the picture.
Well, when he was a young man, he was a teacher.
Yeah. At what point did he go to Elephant Butte when they were fixing that?
Well, no. What happened is that Elephant Butte didn't exist.
Right. They were in the planning stages. No?
He was the water board. The water board, which is the one that the water district, which is now the water district, was being created because they were trying to harness the river water and
the Rio Grande.
Divided, negotiated with Mexico because it was the same river and all that stuff. So all that was taking place.
Yeah.
So the people were seeing the need to recognize the value of the water, to defend the water, and everybody was trying to grab at that water.
Control it.
So, and he was there. He owned the land. He was a farmer, so he knew the land. He knew the area, and then he got involved in politics. So that helped.
Later on in life, he did that. Is that it?
No, that's what he did.
That's what he did. Yeah.
And then he became a teacher.
What? He became a teacher first?
No. He
was a teacher all along?
No, he became a teacher somewhere along the line.
Okay.
What happens is that, remember in the old days, they used to handpick somebody. Somebody who happened to be sharp and said, "Hey, you'll be a teacher. You teach these kids."
People got chosen.
There were no certification of teachers. It was just who happens to be available to the teacher, so they put him in there. So his picture's there someplace, where he's there with his students.
Yeah, he's in the display.
With a picture here. So all that is how this. Nothing is cut and dry, the way it's explained.
Yeah.
It just evolves. You evolve from a farmer to evolvers get to eat, evolvers get to farm, farmers have to do everything. They have to go to school. All these things take place. And then politics comes into the picture too. There's politics involved in everything. So then.
So Sanelli people have always been involved in the politics.
And then in politics, the government of this area is divided into different precincts. This is the Lower Valley precinct, the Upper Valley, the East Side. So there's 4 precincts, 4 county commissioners, one from each precinct. And that's how the county is divided.
Yeah.
So that's why that interest grows and digs into the communities. People start identifying with the county because they have to get water. The water is being distributed by the county. farmers had to rely on the county to get the water, to protect them, to control their water. So you see how all this is interrelated.
Yeah.
Special interests line up at that time with water.
Mhm.
And the church grows up, school evolves. You had a school. This was a school. It was the elementary school. So all of this. And then there used to be nuns used to kind of help out with the church and all that stuff. So they all somehow changed roles, and some were teachers, some were nuns, and some got here somehow.
Yeah.
So all of that evolves. So I don't know if it makes sense, but that's how things happen.
Yeah.
And from where I'm sitting, I came into the picture and I landed here, and my girlfriend was here, and here I am. And that's how I took an interest in this area. And then I decided to get married here. So no more interests, because this is a historic mission here.
Yeah.
So chapel anyway.
Un presidio.
And I thought, well, so this is where I saw the need, because it was abandoned. Nobody really cared about it. For a few years that I decided to run for office. By this time, we had this family reunion. Everybody got to know me, and we kind of mingled. And the rest is history. We end up with all kinds of people coming together, different ideas coming together.
What year did you run for? What year did you run for your position?
I don't remember right now.
He 2000, 2008.
No, not 1990.
The first one. The first time was in 98?
1998, something like that. 96, 98.
I don't know.
I forgot the year.
Okay.
And
that was for county commissioner?
county commission. So
So it wasn't in 2000.
Huh?
Not 2000. 2000?
1998, I think it was.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Because every time it's every 4 years. So 98, 2000, 2002. 2000.
I forgot the exact. I had.
Yeah, he won 3 terms. So he was able to do a lot in those
Anyway,
12
but
years.
I started seeing, because I took an interest in this area, I started seeing the deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
No water, no sewer. The placita was sunk.
They were beautiful trees. They were really big, like 100-year-old trees.
There were
50-year-old
100-year-old trees there.
But they were falling and dying and all that.
So my regional instinct was get rid of the goddamn trees.
Yeah.
First of all, the only way you're gonna raise the land is you're raise the land. I mean, this thing's 12 inches, 24 inches deep. You need to raise it 24 inches. Because this thing would puddle up too much. So the placita wasn't going to survive like that. So first thing that I did after I got married was tear the trees down, which almost caused my divorce.
It didn't happen right after you got married.
My
It
wife
was after your
her
election.
grandfather was the county commissioner a long time ago, right? So she got pissed off and said, "You tear my placita trees. My grandfather planted them." So I don't care. Your grandfather's dead. You need to get rid of them. So anyway, but so this is how things happen.
My mom wanted him to improve the area.
We wanted to improve
But
the area.
part of it was having, and none of us thought about that. We thought, oh, we'll just
But said the
fix it.
first thing to do is we need to raise this placita about 12 to 14 inches, 16 inches, 18 inches, so you can save it. So the first thing to do is get rid of all those trees.
Yeah.
So practically got divorced as a result of
It's
that.
good because Sanelli was not it was not his own city yet, right? It's still part of El Paso.
It was just
So it
part
was
of it.
just kind of a forgotten corner of El Paso. It wasn't really.
Well, in other words, they didn't have any self-rule.
Okay.
In other words, they were just part of the commissioner's court. The county
One of the
divided into
precincts.
four areas, 4 county commissioners.
Mhm.
This is precinct 3, precinct 4. There's 1/4 of the county is precinct 3, and that's how it was. So
Oh, the whole area was kind of neglected
yeah,
because all of
well,
going into like the colonias on the edges. And
there was no water, there were no highways, there were no buses, there was no sewer. None of that stuff existed. So that's why I decided to run. Because another thing also is that I was raised here, but I went to Iowa
Okay.
and I saw how the government worked over there because I was assistant to the governor of Iowa. So when I ran for county commissioner, I knew where the money was in Washington. When I became a county commissioner, I put that knowledge to use. So the first thing I did was let's straighten things out, tear those damn trees down, and let's fix the deposita for one.
oh, he knew
And
how to get federal money
So
and
they started getting
state
federal
money.
money and
It's
state money.
already there.
Things happening.
But he knew where to go get it so that he wouldn't raise taxes.
Well, we organized a water district.
Well, you did that a long time ago.
We got the
with
water district
Project
organized.
Bravo.
No, we organized the water district.
The water district
Didn't
here.
exist.
It didn't exist here.
No,
Oh my goodness.
there was no water district. There was the district, but not the. There was a district that controlled the irrigation water, but there was no water district to distribute water.
For residential, you mean?
Yeah, in other words, to provide water. That didn't exist. So we created. This is where we brought in, these people who created the board, the water board. My father-in-law started involving himself with the water board as a county commissioner then, talking about this irrigation water and all that stuff. So I kind of got a hint about that from what my wife and my father-in-law used to tell me about what their dad used to do.
Yeah,
So-
because their farm didn't have running water. They were still using the septic system.
They had irrigation,
They had irrigation water. Yeah.
but there was no water flowing to this area.
So all the houses around here, all the farms, they had irrigation water.
But they all have water wells. They didn't have there was no water distribution system. Then we created the water board, the water district, started putting for money. See, my experience in Iowa in government helped me because I was able to copy how water was distributed in Iowa,
It's all farmland over there.
how the farmland became residential.
Okay.
First, they had to become, civilized. Then they had to become cities and stuff
get
like
city
that. They had to
services.
create a water district to run the water to see who's going to get the water. See, the water money was available to build the water towers.
Yeah.
But nobody put in for it. So we had to start from that. Let's get the water. So let's put a water tower. So we're going to have water. Then we started buying water from the city of El Paso to distribute to the local people. And we started drilling wells, to add the amount of water. All that, it's a lot. It's a complex situation.
All that took time. Why did you go to Iowa?
Basically, because I went to go to Drake University to get my master's, and I got involved with the governor's office over there. Before I knew
He
it,
became the Spanish-speaking People's
I
Commissioner.
created the demand. I called for the creation of a commission to study the needs of the Spanish-speaking people in the state of Iowa. And that proposal went to the governor's office, along with $100,000 appropriation. And what do I do with $100,000? So he dug into it and found out that I was involved as a student. I got involved with this senator over there to create the water district, to get, this system over there. So that's how I got involved. I learned from him, from Iowa, how government works.
How did your interest in politics start and develop in
Well,
Iowa?
it just popped because I was in the university and I saw the need. I mean, obviously, it was kind of when you're in a state with a small number of Mexicans, you start seeing the need from a different perspective, because then you become just one small group of people, another group of people,
Without a voice.
and you see how one group gets everything, the other group doesn't get anything, and then I got involved with government, and then you end up trying to how power filters and how power creates. So that helped me because it helped me focus on it. And the governor appointed me to the humanities board.
The governor of Iowa?
The governor of Iowa.
Which one? Terry? Or Ray? Governor Ray?
Governor Ray. And so I was a member of the humanities board in Iowa, and that brought me into a focus of how the state money gets trickled down to the local communities and all that stuff. So that all that became a good experience for me.
That on top of the Project Bravo.
Well, yeah.
Because I know that
Project Bravo was a war on poverty over here. So
yeah. Living after they got married, they lived in Moon City.
Yeah.
And Moon City didn't have anything. It was just a colonia, dirt roads.
Yeah.
They built all the new houses. They didn't have any services. They didn't even have a fire department. So when somebody's house burned,
everything,
they didn't even have
everything was created. In other words, I was involved in creating everything. In other words, at that time there was no water, so we had to create a water district. There were no fire departments. We had to create a fire department.
How did you get the fire truck?
Well, there was a fire.
Where?
The dairy burned across my house.
That dairy in front of your house burned?
Yeah.
And what happened?
And the fire department from El Paso came and looked at the fire and said, they'd keep everybody out. They said, well, put some water on that thing. We can't. I mean, you can't. We don't have the authority to come and put water on that fire. Over here is protecting public from themselves.
From burning themselves.
From burning themselves. So that's what the firemen told me, that they couldn't put out the fire in front of my house because they didn't have the authority.
Basically, it was a colonia back then.
Because they were not part of the city of El Paso.
Oh, good.
So now if you had a fire department, we could help that fire department. But since you don't have a fire department, we can't help anybody.
Just help you look
You're
at
shit
it.
out of luck. Basically, that's what they told me.
And that was true of Socorro, Moon City.
That's what
they didn't have fire
there
departments.
there were no fire trucks here, no fire districts, no fire departments, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff evolved. It evolved, but they fired in my house.
Yeah, well, that's a good start.
And I used to work in Fort Bliss at that time. And there was a truck there. It was the salvage truck.
A salvage fire truck.
And I said, well, how about that truck? So I said, well, I looked into it. I said, well, this truck is salvage, I'm going to get rid of it. And then I said, well, how can I get that fire truck to Moon City? Well, you have to have somebody from a governmental unit help you get it. So I went to the county commissioner, which was then Rogelio Sanchez,
It was Rogelio Sanchez.
and I told him about it. And he said, "Oh shit, we don't need a damn thing."
You don't need a fire department? You don't need a fire truck?
Well, he didn't think we needed it
Okay.
anyway.
That's nice for him.
But there was another commissioner on the other side. And there were 4 commissioners, when the county divided into 4. So the other commissioner,
You remember his name?
forgot his name now, but he used to be the commissioner on the northeast
In the Northeast, okay.
of El Paso.
I'll look that up.
And I talked to him. He said, "You know what? We can get you the truck, but Rogelio has to spearhead and ask for it.
Because it's his
The
precinct.
commissioners can get that truck from." Yeah, I know. It's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. The fire truck is in Fort Bliss. I work there. I see it every day. It's useless, not being used to anybody. He said, "Well, have Rogelio request it. The federal government will give us the truck, but we have to request it." So I went to Rogelio and said, "Rogelio, we need a fire truck." "Oh, shit. Well, organize yourselves as a fire department, and then we'll go ahead and get you a fire truck." Okay. Okay, guys, we're going to create a fire department.
So you went back to the community.
So
To
we
your
went back to the
neighbors.
community. I said, "Okay, we're going to be the fire department." Hell with it. So we
volunteer
got the fire.
department.
We got the fire department. Went to the head and said, "We want the truck." Okay. Moon City Fire Department.
I was little when all that was happening. It was like a garage.
So
It was just like a garage.
It was
up there.
and so that what happened is that's how we started doing it. But how I got the bright idea? We basically the need. Fire captain couldn't.
Couldn't put
The
out the
fire
fire.
department. The firemen told me they couldn't. They could help the fire department put out a fire as an assisting an existing fire department, but they couldn't come into the county to put out a fire.
Do you believe that?
So it's ridiculous, but that's how government works, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
How about Socorro? How did you get Socorro's fire
well, no,
department?
that's another history.
Oh, that's another story. Okay.
But it was part of Moon City was Socorro, right? Socorro is the old town of that area.
The main
Basically,
old town.
the San Elizario area is here. Socorro's over there. On the other side of the tracks is an area that used to be colonias,
It was the edge of town. There was nothing
the
out
edge
there.
of town, right? So what happened is that it's interesting because things don't happen by magic. Things happen because some crazy thing happens. Okay.
Or some crazy person gets it going.
First of all, the dairy had to burn next to my house. And then I saw the need for a fire truck. And then I asked the fireman, "Why don't you put that fire out?" He said, "Because you don't have a fire department." I said, "What the hell? But you do." "Yeah, but we can't do it unless we're going to be assisting an existing fire department." I said, "Oh, shit." See what I mean? So that's just the way nature is business. So that's when I got the bright idea of creating a fire department. Okay, we're going to be the goddamn fire department.
Were you working with Project Bravo at that time?
No, I wasn't.
That was before or
That
after?
was before. That was
Before Project Bravo.
Before Project Bravo.
Okay.
So basically, I'm talking politics at the
It's his
raw end.
personality, you know. He
Just
likes to be doing something.
I like to get involved. That's all.
And I remember a lot of our neighbors. They were real quiet, shy people. They didn't want to rock the boat. They didn't want to
Y
talk.
luego,
They didn't want to complain.
another thing that happened is that the people that live across the railroad track on that side are the Moon City bunch. They're newcomers. People on this side of the railroad track are the old timers.
Oh, yeah. There's always a rivalry.
So they used to see all the wetbacks over there. They just got here. See what I mean?
They're all citizens, but that's what they always do. They always
But the
look at each
people
other
here-
like that.
The people from here was just an Elizario, okay?
And Socorro.
People Socorro, the railroad track, people on that side of the railroad track, they're newcomers, bunch
Yeah.
of immigrants.
And
from
you,
Mexico that moved in here,
and you,
and I happen to live on that side.
they live right on the corner
wait a
of Moon
goddamn
City
minute.
and Moon Road.
So that see
North
what I
Loop and
mean?
Moon Road.
But what happens is that I'm working in Fort Bliss, and I'm seeing this fire truck, and it's parked there, not causing anybody not helping anybody. So that's when I started curious about why can't we have that truck? Well, you could have it if somebody would ask us for it. The federal government doesn't need that damn thing. It's a salvage vehicle. But we'll give it to a county unit or a government unit that wants it. So I had to go tell Rogelio
You know who Rogelio
to ask. Rogelio is the county commissioner. I went to talk to him. I said, Rogelio, they told me in Fort Bliss that they would give us the truck if you would ask for it and give it to us. Shit. Well, how's that going to happen? We need the fire department. So I got together a bunch of people in Socorro because remember I need to use the power bunch, right?
Yeah.
The powerful
the people
on
in
this
power.
side. The Mexicans from across the river, from across the tracks,
Had no
were
power.
Mexicans, so they didn't have this
They had
lineage.
they had no power.
They didn't have a lineage. On this side of the tracks, you're from the original families.
Yeah.
On that side of the tracks, you're newcomers. So what happens is that, guess what? We're gonna organize fire department, right?
In Socorro.
Bunch of volunteers
In Socorro.
from Moon City
Uh-huh.
and joined the people from Socorro
Oh, okay.
and created the fire department
In Socorro.
in Socorro.
Okay.
Well, actually,
Actually, they wanted the way they wanted one first for
Moon
themselves.
City didn't exist.
Yeah.
What happened is that so they said, well, so to get it, they said, let's get it to the fire department. They were going to create it. So we organized a group of people to be the fire department. People from the railroad tracks and people from Socorro jointly created the Socorro Fire
They needed
Department.
numbers so that way they could see that it was needed and
So that we
necessary
could
and
get
all that,
the
right?
truck. But the people in Socorro didn't give a damn about the truck. The people in Moon City, the one that saw the fire over there. So they wanted it over there. So that's how the Moon City Fire Department created itself.
So then that truck essentially went to Moon City because Socorro wanted a new truck. They didn't want
No.
the old one.
Socorro didn't want anything.
Oh, they didn't need anything?
No, they're too goddamn good for that.
Oh my goodness. But what about if they had a fire or they're part of El Paso?
Never worried about that.
Oh, they didn't worry about it?
Think about it. The thing about it is this. Okay. There's the power game.
I know that.
Okay, you got a bunch of people on this side thinking they're better than those people, those bad Mexican crow. Okay?
I used to wonder why everybody treated everybody badly over there. Now I know
So you
why.
got to look at it from that angle.
Oh, okay.
So
Can you
once you get
believe
those
that?
people together,
Discrimination of Hispanics on Hispanics.
and then you
Right.
see it, but then the dynamics of how you get these people to start thinking about these people on the other side, and then the governing people, Rogelio Sanchez, the county commissioner, he didn't realize there was a difference. But what the hell? If the truck's available, let's take it to Socorro. So they said, we want it in Moon City. Well, create a goddamn fire department in Moon City. So we created a fire department in Moon City. Just a bunch of volunteers said, we're going to be the fire department. Okay, Rogelio, we have a fire department.
We need another truck.
Get us a truck. We got us a truck.
What year was that?
It was like
I
1965.
don't remember. I'd have to sit down and start
I think
thinking
it was
about
like
those
65
years.
or so. We were little.
But that was the
No,
dynamics
65,
of
70.
just think
six-
the dynamics of
70.
reality.
Between 65 and 70, I think.
in this area. Organized a fire department. The first one organized was the Socorro Fire Department. Okay, but then this fire department was organized in Socorro with Socorroans and people from the other side. People from the other side speak Spanish. People on this other side want to speak English. So make sure they could control the environment, right? So shit, that's what we broke up. So hell, we'll create our own goddamn fire department over there in Spanish. We have our meetings in Spanish. Let them keep their goddamn truck. So we got another fire truck. So Rogelio got us another fire truck for Socorro, and they got us the old truck that was in Fort Bliss Park.
The salvage one.
Salvaged one.
For
And gave
Moon
it to
City.
the Moon City bunch.
Oh.
So that's their fire truck.
Yeah.
Now, by this time, you didn't have the San Elizario Fire Department. You didn't have Famous Fire Department, Clean Fire Department. None of those fire departments existed, okay? They were the first fire department that existed.
Socorro.
Socorro in Moon City.
Yeah, it had to be in 1970.
So that's how those things got created. And,
But the community activists, the community people, and back then it was the whole Viva la Raza and Cesar
those,
Chavez and all these things that were happening with
Yeah,
people
and-
starting to speak up
and the
for
people
themselves.
Yeah.
from Mexico, or that spoke Spanish, understood the need better than the people from here. The people from here were just
Well, they were happy to have what they had. Over there, they
they
had
were
nothing.
happy to have what they had. Not only that, but they had a sense of superiority. They could speak English once in a while, at least.
When they wanted to, yeah.
Oh, those redbacks don't know what the hell they want. So that attitude prevailed.
I think it's still around.
It is still around.
It's still
The people
around.
in Crete were the same way.
People in Sanelli
The people
too.
in
There's
Sanelli
old
were the
timers in
Mexican. The
Sanelli.
people
They
in
look at the
Mex-
newcomers
the
that
people
don't like them.
that from Zanelli were Mexicans, and the people from Crete were the gringos.
Okay.
So you got that divide here. And in Famous, you had the same divide
The
over
same
there.
thing.
And that's just the nature of humanity, I guess.
And they had discrimination, and they had black people supposedly in Pavens too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
much so that they actually created a cemetery for black people.
Yeah.
So like a whole section. So it's like really
Well,
yeah.
There was a school in Socorro for black kids back in the old days. They weren't allowed to go to school in Socorro.
What about here in Sanelli?
Here's another thing, somehow the blacks had never
I have never seen any
focused.
black
Had
people.
never been
I don't think they were interested in Sanelli.
It skips on Ellie.
No, you know what? I think they wanted to go places where they had some voice, where they spoke English. So they were there, like in
Yeah.
Socorro, in Clint,
Mm.
Pavens, those areas, they had more of a population where
Yeah.
presumably, more black people were more comfortable because I saw them there, but I never saw them in the poorer places.
Okay.
So it's really crazy, but that's how it evolved. So even the dynamics of race plays a part into how town gets developed.
Hmm. Well, that it all plays a part in how, like, this area was the county seat, but then because of race and because of the Salt War, the power was taken from the people here.
Yeah.
And the people
So-
who lived here, even though they were Americans and they were all citizens, they were all from this area for hundreds of years before even El Paso was even created. There was a larger population here. So there's a lot of discrimination when El Paso was becoming formed by more of the Anglos that were settling in downtown El Paso.
Yeah.
And they would look at Sanelli people and they'd look at them and they called them paseons, but they was more like paseños or something. Like they saw them like wetbacks or Mexicans, but not really Americans, even though they were citizens.
No,
they were already, they were already
It
American
was just
citizens. There was just a way to divide them and
They divide
discriminate against them.
but it's you used to see that when you're in school.
Mhm.
When you were in school, you were
You see
I was at the Isleta
power
High School.
dynamics there too.
I was going to Isleta schools. And I remember when I started going to high school, all of a sudden they discovered there were gringos out here. Where they come from?
Oh, because they saw the blonde, blue-eyed people here, or what?
No, there were some gringos over here. O sea, the gringos started going to Isleta
Oh, okay.
from Clint.
Oh, okay.
And the Mexicans will start going to Isleta from Clint.
Because there was no schools over here. They
There
had
were
to go over
schools
there.
here. The schools in Clint didn't
There was no
exist.
high schools over here.
Isleta was first. So they had this little San Elizario Elementary School here,
But
which
nothing
was run by
higher.
the Mexicans. And
But the local people here, they weren't
even though they were they thought they were gringos. And even though they thought they were gringos. They used to discriminate against the Mexicans too, because they think we're better. We speak English. So all that shit happens, and the people the irony, the Mexicans from Clint would get along real fine with the Anglos. They'd get fine. They got along fine. They would assimilate with the Gringos, and they accepted them. People from Sanelli didn't get accepted over there.
There was always a
They're
rivalry.
newcomers.
between Sanelli and
Newcomers.
Spence. Yeah.
They didn't belong here. You know what I mean? So all that shit happens in
Small town politics.
Yeah.
small town
Right.
politics. And the same thing happened here. It happened in Favens. It happened in Tornillo. The whole area. The communities evolve, and the Anglos hang out over there. Mexicans hang out over here.
So as commissioner,
So all that background forged in my mind
Mhm.
what I am today.
Yeah.
Because I saw the dynamics of all that shit happening.
And everything he did to help Clint and Fabens and here, because as commissioner, he realized there was a need that was not being met.
Well, hell, they didn't even realize they needed it.
That's right. They
Because
didn't know. They didn't know.
It never
They didn't have
dawned on
parks. They didn't have nutrition centers. They didn't have recreation
Well-
centers. They didn't have any of that.
What happened is that having left El Paso brought me another perspective. I saw how the world works out there.
Oh, leaving El Paso to another state.
When I went to Iowa, I saw how the government works over there. Then I got involved over there and saw how the Anglo community worked, how the participated with the governor's office and all that stuff. So I learned how the gringos thought and how the government works. So it helped me understand it, and the people kind of become, and the subgroups become subservient to the group. Even in Iowa,
Yeah.
there were Mexicans over there too. There were battles, and the same thing happened. The Anglos were one thing, and the Mexicans were the other two. Just the people themselves created their own divisions.
They segregated themselves.
Yeah.
Is it time to go?
I'm sure he's
pretty close to-
running out of time.
Yeah, I tell you,
This
he
guy
can talk
talks-
for a long
This
time.
guy talks.
He has a lot of
This guy
stories.
talks too much.
No,
No, there's
that's
a.
perfect. That's perfect.
But he was the perfect person as the commissioner to come and help this area more because he already had that background with Project Bravo, community development, helping a lot of these areas
I had
bring
that experience.
services to them that they didn't even know they needed.
And I had the Iowa experience, which I was able to draw from the power structure. So it just became, in other words, even the commissioners didn't care about. You mean those people need something?
They didn't know.
Why
They didn't know
Why
what
don't
they
they
needed.
ask for it? They hadn't thought about it.
Yeah. Well, they didn't know who to talk to. They didn't know who to ask.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So I remember as a county commissioner, yeah, but why hadn't Rogelio thought about it? Well, Rogelio was too busy. He was a teacher. He didn't have time to know what the hell was happening with the community. So
Well, it was a whole different thing. I mean, he was from here, the area here, so he was
from
able.
the area.
He was able to take it for granted that it is what it is, and they're dealing with it.
Leave it
So
alone.
as coming back from Iowa and realizing, and also también because of my mom and her parents who live here on the farm, he realized they were being left behind. They didn't have running water in the 70s.
Yeah.
They didn't have a lot of the services that people take for granted in the city.
Well,
So then my mom, I know my
fact,
mom
as a-
pushed him to, do something.
As a county commissioner, that's exactly what I did. I said, well, we need buses. Because we need buses. So let's find out where the buses are.
Oh, to get the bus lines to go all the way over there.
So I went to the state representative and said, hey, we need buses over here. Shit. So I remember we got a grant from the state government to get buses. And that's how we created the bus company.
Yeah.
Which bus company?
The bus company got buses. We had a bus, but it didn't exist
There was
for
like
the community.
one bus for.
One bus, but it didn't exist in the little communities. It would run from Favens to El Paso, and would pass through here. But it didn't pick up people along the way. So the need sometimes creates the demand, because you end up communities start popping up. You say, wait a minute, why can't we have a bus? The people here had gotten used to the fact that they had a bus, so they didn't need a bus.
They didn't think they needed one.
They didn't think they needed it. But those people across the track over there,
They
hey,
didn't.
wait a
have
minute, we need a bus. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how need.
It helped that he came back from Iowa,
And more
knowing
people-
how the government works, because
And-
that way he could apply for the services that everybody needed here.
Yeah.
Because when he got elected, people said, "Are you going to raise taxes?" He said, "I don't need to raise taxes. There's money in Austin. The federal government and the state has money. You just got to go and ask for it. They allocate for all the
Well,
communities and
in
all this
my
all over
With
the
me,
country."
my experience in Iowa helped me understand how government works, because I learned how that works. So I brought that knowledge. Well,
And
we don't
asking
have
for grants.
we don't have a
money.
water district. Create one.
Yeah.
So create one. What the hell? How did it get created? We get together. We said we are a water company. Hell, we incorporated. We're the legal entity, and now a water company. And that's how we did. So the water district was created. So
So that's how you
Well-
did it without having to raise taxes.
no, we didn't have to raise taxes. Well, didn't raise taxes.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, because you were able to apply for grants.
No, we first of all, we had to create the water.
Right.
But water was available, but we had to buy it from where the water was. The water was underground, so we had to drill a well. So we had to get drilling ring. That's where my friend, the driller, became an important element in my life.
Oh, to
When I
help.
became a commissioner, so the lake was running out of water in Escarate. And this friend of mine owned a drilling rig. So let's drill some goddamn wells over there. Get some water for the lake. So we got the drilling going for the lake. We can do the drilling to drill water for the people. Let's create a water district. So a Lower Valley Water District got created. So we started using well water, and then we would buy water from the city of El Paso. And then we got to put in an application to get a grant to build a water tank, 2 water tanks, 3 water tanks. And that's how water got created. And that's how water became a reality here.
Where did you get experience to have to start nonprofits and
Because
get incorporated?
I was in
Charter.
I was in the Project Bravo board of directors. Remember, the War on Poverty created the not-for-profits, Project Bravo,
Yeah.
and as a result of that experience, I learned by being a board member of Project Bravo how that happened. So I was an assistant board member. To Manuel Nakashima was a board member, and I was his assistant.
So when he
I
couldn't
would
make it to
attend the meetings
you would
when
attend.
he was not available. He'd just name me as assistant, his replacement, to represent him when he was not going to be there. It's okay, Manuel. I'll be representing, no problem. Sure. Okay, Miguel, you'll be the board. So that's how I got getting involved, by getting involved.
Mhm.
Because I talked to somebody and somebody talked to me and we ended up doing things.
Is that how you made genealogy a nonprofit?
Huh?
How did you make genealogy a nonprofit?
Well, I created Project Bravo. So I wrote the charters I learned I copied all the charters from Project Bravo and created the Moon City Corporation and the Socorro Fire Department, all of these legal entities. Then they started getting into legalese.
Yeah.
Started learning how to write grants, how to write, how those things were structured. I started learning when I started going to college, learning all that shit. Started learning how the thing works. So I ultimately started getting involved, created water districts, created water boards. All that got created, not just because somebody decided to create it. Everything was doable, but nobody thought of doing it.
They didn't know how.
Well, I didn't know either, but what I'm saying is that at least I had the experience
To know
of
that there
having
was
asked
out
the
there.
question. And so as a result, the fact that I was inquisitive enough to ask is what brought me into power. In essence, that's what happened. That's why I became a county commissioner.
Yeah.
Because I started learning how that worked. Then I said, well, Rogelio, you haven't done shit. Get your ass out of the way. I'm going to take over that place. But he's the one that told me. He said, run against me. Knock your ass out. Sure. I'm tired. I need to retire. I didn't know that.
They kept re-electing him.
I didn't know that he couldn't retire. You know why? Because the special interests had him there. They didn't want him to retire. Because they knew they had him where they need him. And he was doing their bidding. So he pretty much begged me to run, to knock him off his ass from being a county commissioner so he could retire. He didn't tell me that, but in essence, that's what he did. He said, he practically begged me.
He had already been
Right,
commissioner for
yes.
like 38 years or something,
Get
36
me off
years.
this damn chair. I can't be here forever. She'd been 35 years county commissioner.
Yeah.
And this is just some of the realities of. Well, those experiences were helpful to me because I was able to see things from a totally different perspective. Because of my background, because of my experience, because of my War on Poverty days, my university days, all that stuff.
It helped you create genealogy too.
Create genealogy.
Well, with Tránsito and the other
basically,
members, it
used-
was just like a social club at first.
I used I wrote the charter for the Project Bravo Corporation. So I created this genealogy corporation. Hell with it. There it is. Just copied it off the books.
Yeah.
And named it. That's it.
And they had their bylaws and everything.
And we
so,
said the bylaws.
so they were completely
I said, you the
nonprofit.
board member. Tránsito, you be a board member. We'll make a board.
And then Lamo Payan was also on the
Put
board.
Lama Payan used to be
Sam
my
Sanchez
employee
was on the
when I
board.
was in Project Bravo. I hired him. So I knew him personally. And then
Sam Sanchez.
también otro
Oh.
Alarcón.
And
Rodolfo
also-
Alarcon.
Who? Rodolfo.
Rodolfo Alarcon was my board member in Project Bravo. So all of those guys, had been trained under me as employees.
And you also knew Arnulfo, right?
Arnulfo.
The wife of
He was a pharmacist.
Yeah, he was a pharmacist.
Well, he was in my board of directors.
Oh, he was.
He was a pharmacist in the Gun and Castillo drugstore in Isleta.
Mhm.
When I created the Isleta Community Action Program, I got him and Ernesto, the other pharmacist over there, that had the other drugstore over there. Ernie, I forgot the last name now. Those two pharmacists became the board of directors. Them and Rogelio and them and Frank Candelaria. They were my board of directors to create this Isleta Community Action Program. Then we put in the grant. Well, when we incorporated, then we negotiated a contract with Project Bravo to take the program away from Project Bravo and run it as this Isleta Community Action Program. And that's all those things happen, in the process.
Well, I'm glad you were able to do a lot of things as commissioner because a
But
lot of things needed to be done.
A lot of the stuff was by accident or by need, by having had the experience. I saw the need. I saw the things. Hell, I plastered these walls here.
Yeah, with the early members of genealogy.
I mean,
yeah.
When I first took over this building, the thing was crumbling. Olga Sanchez,
Fernandez?
What's your name?
Olga Trujillo? No.
Trujillo.
Yeah.
Olga Trujillo.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband, he was the one that helped me plaster the walls.
I know, I remember.
And we actually took this building because the county had rented it out. They had a renter living here.
Yeah.
And I said, you can't do that. That building is too valuable to be rented out to a tenant.
And genealogy needed a place.
So I said, get out of here. We need this place. So I talked to the commissioners and said, give it to us to run this genealogy thing. He said, well, you fix it yourselves. Okay. Since I was raised, my dad was a construction, so I knew how to plaster. So, plastando las paredes con Félix Hernández y todos los que andaban ahí.
Esposo de Olga, yeah.
Esposo de Olga. And that's how we fixed this place up.
They were all the early members of genealogy.
The early members of genealogy.
They used to get together as friends and talk about family and genealogy and history and all that. So
all of this is that's why I'm saying the evolution of this people as we grew up, the interaction that we had, friends that we made. Marta Alarcón was my classmate in Isleta High School.
Patricia too, no?
Patricia.
Macías.
La
hija de
Tránsito. And, they were all
she
my
became
classmates.
A judge. So
Patricia Macías was classmate at UTEP when I was going to university. So all of that, all those experiences helped me understand it, helped me relate to it, and put my background into it. The rest is history. My background in construction, because my dad was in construction, so I knew how to run a tractor, how to do a backhoe, how to do all this crap. I used to push the damn employees, road and bridge crew, and I knocked those goddamn trees down. Yeah. So, well, we can't do that, Commissioner. Get the hell out of there. I'll run that goddamn tractor. Get on that damn bike and tear the hell out of that tree. I knew how to operate equipment. So even though I was the county commissioner, they had to pay attention to me, but they didn't have to let me alone. but I
at least you showed them how to do it. So
I
they could
just
get on
show
with
them
it.
how to do it, ¿me entiendes?
Yeah.
Because I knew how to do it. because I've been trained. My dad had us plastering walls and digging ditches
When they were
when I
little
was a
kids.
kid. So all my background was in construction, so shit, nothing new to me. So in a way, that's what got this building restored. Bunch
Well,
of people getting together and doing it.
I think that is all the time we have right now.
Finally, the time's up. Okay.
You couldn't